Campis tu pobre negro caro mantiña ñas baile suki costa
And now the 7 angels with the 7 trumpets made ready to sound them. When the first trumpet sounded, there was a storm of hail and fire, mingled with blood, that fell on the earth, burning up a third part of the earth, burning up a third of the trees, burning up all the green grass on it. The first angel went on his errand, pouring out his cup onto the earth, whereupon an ulcer broke out, malignant and troublesome, upon all the men who bore the beast's mark and worshipped his image.
One must be a real expert on self-deceit to be able to continue to deny all the facts that clearly indicate a major upheaval for the human race on this earth now when we are to embark upon our next millennium. Some of these key facts, their implications, and some speculations are now brought to you by the world's unique galactic connection, TV director and producer Ervin Lazio. Watch and listen carefully, but think with your own imagination, not the brains of your presidents, generals, or priests, or even of Ervin Lazio or me, but your own. Enjoy.
Nell'aprile dell'89 io ho cominciato ad avere dei contatti, delle apparizioni, delle visioni con un essere bellissimo che si faceva denominare Vergine Maria, Madre Celeste Miriam. E questa visione di questo essere bellissimo, la Madonna veniva con le mani giunte, usciva da un globo luminosissimo e dopo alla fine di questo messaggio, durante l'apparizione, mi dice: adesso manifesto il segno che ti ho promesso. Ma prima ti chiedo, mi dice la Madonna, sei disponibile a soffrire una parte della sofferenza del nostro Signore Gesù Cristo, di mio figlio Gesù? Io gli rispondo: sì, madre. E in quel momento dal petto della Madonna ho visto uscire 2 raggi luminosi che mi hanno colpito le mani. E da quel momento è iniziata la stigmatizzazione. E ho capito che il segno che mi ha dato la Madonna nelle mani, dopo 2 anni nei piedi, dopo nel costato sinistro e infine qui nella fronte. Questa stigmatizzazione qui nella fronte e in tutto il corpo sono i segni della crocifissione di Gesù Cristo. Questo segno è per testimoniare la missione che la Madonna mi ha dato, la missione del terzo messaggio di Fatima. Questo messaggio parla della prima cosa della crisi della Chiesa cattolica apostolica romana, cioè la divisione della Chiesa. La seconda cosa, la Madonna annuncia una guerra nucleare. La terza cosa, la Madonna parla del ritorno sulla terra di Gesù Cristo. e che dovrebbe avvenire in questo periodo. Il Dio ha creato l'intelligenza dappertutto e alcune di queste civiltà che hanno avuto la redenzione di Gesù Cristo, quindi si sono evolute molto più che noi, ci visitano e sono pronte a poter evitare una catastrofe che l'uomo può mettere in atto. Io ho incontrato questi esseri extraterrestri e mi hanno detto due cose. La prima cosa, che loro molto presto si manifesteranno a tutta l'umanità e quindi molto presto l'uomo si deve preparare a questo contatto. La seconda cosa che mi hanno detto è che loro parteciperanno, saranno testimoni della seconda venuta di Gesù Cristo sulla terra.
Nostradamus' prophecies were usually diffuse and gave way to wild speculations. But on one point, Nostradamus is exceptionally lucid. On the 7th month of 1999, an awesome king descends from heaven. Is this the new Messiah? Another Jesus? Or is this finally the link between the cosmic order and a humanity that lives in harmony with itself and its surroundings in the galaxy?
For over 400 years, the prophecies of Michel de Notre-Dame, a French physician, have puzzled scientists. Nostradamus is believed to have predicted accurately the Russian Revolution and the communist dictatorship and both world wars. Nostradamus said that most of his prophecies refer to the first 500 years after his own time. He used particularly gloomy metaphors when speaking of the Antichrist, of whose totalitarian reign the German Third Reich is a good example. Nostradamus hinted that the key to the last prophecies will be found in our time. His grimmest predictions of disasters seem to be coming true today.
In my work on the Nostradamus prophecies, we have translated all of the known quatrains of prophecies. There are almost 1,000 of them. And the majority of them did focus on the probability of the third Antichrist and the Third World War. And other prophecies focused on the probability of the axis shift, the probability of the polar ice caps melting, and the force of the world being inundated by water. As I said, the world is gradually shifting now. And as it does, we are having these things occur with the increase in the earthquakes, the increase in the volcanic eruptions, and the strangeness in our weather pattern. But the tectonic plates would also be moving with all of this turbulence, and they would be forced against each other, forcing some countries and some continents to be forced upward as much as 2,000 feet. The center of the United States will be forced upward, at least that high, while other parts of the continents will drop off and sink. Like in America, it would be California and Florida would drop off the sides. Other countries of the world, the same events would occur with the buckling of the plates against each other. Asia is the only continent that would survive without major cracking. And if things go according to the prophecies and the different scenarios, we could go into the most horrible war in the history of man. This would be the Third World War. We have already really begun the Third World War because it was supposed to start in the Middle East. After the wars break out in the Middle East and escalate, then the prophecy is that we will go to war in the gray area of Europe. It's called the gray area because you don't know if you're in Europe or if you're in Asia. And he used the terms Macedonia and Albania because he didn't have a word for Yugoslavia. And all of this could escalate. But at the time this is supposed to happen, there will be great confusion in the world. We will have lots of economic problems. We will be having increase in natural disasters. There will be an increase in earthquakes and the reawakening of the Ring of Fire. Volcanoes will be reawakening that have been dormant for hundreds of years. And this is occurring now. Our climate patterns and our weather patterns will continue to change and be very erratic. This is all part of the beginning of the shift of the world.
What is the part played by the third Antichrist in the reawakening of chaos? Napoleon and Hitler are generally regarded as antichrists, and the third is believed to have been already born somewhere in the Middle East. According to interpreters of Nostradamus, his powers touch upon the life of every human being. Nostradamus was even able to predict the coming of computers and their worldwide networking.
He said that everyone would have a number, would be placed somewhere on their body, and they would have to have this to go in and out of stores, to go to work. And it's exactly what they say in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, that every man will have a number that he will have to be able to use. And this goes along with Social Security numbers and all of this. But all of the information about everyone will be in these computers. And this could be a very dangerous thing in the future. But he did see a group of people that was called the underground that would resist all of these modern inventions and modern things that were happening. And they would remain outside of society.
Продолжается ли жизнь души после физической смерти? Режиссер этого фильма Йохан Абграм и русский профессор Константин Городков, вызывающий многочисленные споры, решили ответить на этот вопрос. Работая в Петербурге, они ждали подходящего случая. И вот некая женщина покончила жизнь самоубийством. Йохан Абграм был рядом со своей камерой, профессор Городков со скальпелем. Следующие сцены могут шокировать, но они не могут не вызвать потрясающего впечатления.
For over 2 generations, an effort was made to indoctrinate the Russian soul with the idea that the state is the only God and communism the only Christ. Dialectic materialism took on the shape of the Antichrist, in whose name people demolished their churches and spat on the holy icons. Now the Antichrist is dead, and the people who lived under his tyranny do not know what to do with their freedom. It's difficult for a Soviet citizen to find a place in the new world, and a growing number of aging people, in their desperation, are driven to self-destruction. In this breakdown of values, the Christian church seeks to hold on to its role as a pathfinder for those who've lost their way. For centuries, it dictated what people should think about life and death. Association with the state turned the church into an instrument of power politics, and under its magnificent vaults, the heritage of the carpenter of Nazareth shrank into spiritless doctrines and numbing ceremonies. Today, the need for spiritual and material change is more acute than ever, and old patterns are no longer of any use. If the church is unable to provide people with inner strength, is it not in danger of turning into an antichrist itself? The world, however, changes very slowly, and apocalyptic disasters may provide the only way out of the impasse.
Zu jeder Jahrhundertwende und besonders jetzt zur Jahrtausendwende taucht die Frage der Apokalypse der Menschheit auf. Kommt das Ende? Kommt dieses Ende schon bald? Viele sprechen davon, dass das Ende deshalb kommt, weil die Umwelt zugrunde geht. Viele sagen im Blick auf die heutige Zeit, Christus ist es nicht gelungen, die Welt zu erlösen. Daher muss der Antichrist her. Wir haben eine Zunahme des Satanismus, des Satanskultes, und so erhoffen sich manche vom sogenannten Antichristen das eigentliche Heil der Zukunft. Der Antichrist, er soll kommen, sagen manche, um einmal Ordnung zu schaffen, jene Ordnung, die sonst niemand zustande gebracht hat, und alles niederfegen und zerstören, was hier auf dieser Welt ist, um die Welt des Antichristen aufzubauen, wo, wie in der Bibel steht, der eine den anderen nicht mehr leiden kann. Und so sagt man, dies sei heute schon da.
Keep that. Just make a note that we use that one.
Since the church has answered only its own questions, the most bizarre movements have rushed to fill the ideological void. At times, salvation is brought by UFOs, at other times by blindly following a leader. But again and again, a crude lust for power and the unscrupulous accumulation of wealth are shown to be the driving force behind many sects. Thus, these sects are excellent tools for the Antichrist. And since society takes such a remarkably indulgent view of them, the question arises, how deeply has the power of the Antichrist penetrated society?
Nuclear tests, holes in the ozone layer, exhaust fumes, poisonous food chains, and the raping of the rainforest, are these all the human contributions to the major upheaval? If you look at this Jupiter theory, would it be possible that the Earth sort of tilts and throws us all around on the other side of the world, just overnight? The mammoths found in icy Siberia could have had the same fate. How else can we explain the fact that traces of tropical plants were found in their mouths? Did the Earth tilt then? Will it tilt again? And what will happen with us?
Various threat factors have sensitized even leading scientists into seeking contact with higher forms of consciousness, contacts which mold their whole view of the world. Increasingly often, the contacts involve visions, according to which another world has lived through a development similar to that which now threatens us.
In 1973, while I was teaching at the University of California, I experienced what some would call a higher consciousness experience. Others would say a contact experience, where my wife and I actually saw and took pictures of physical spacecraft from some other dimensional world. The importance of this contact changed my whole academic perspective. I received mental pictures of how our sister planet we call Mars underwent a series of massive geological changes millions of years ago and actually lost its planetary atmosphere. When I began to document the mental pictures that I saw, which included visions of three-sided and four-sided and five-sided pyramids on the surface of Mars in what is called the Elysium Triangle, I was approached by colleagues involved with the National Space Program at Los Angeles who shared with me some of these unusual pictures of the surface of Mars that were captured by the Mariner 9 and Viking 1 and 2 programs. Something destroyed the surface of Mars, leaving behind these pyramidal formations above the waterline. Now, this is part of the documentation suggesting that we as a planetary society are moving in a similar direction of destroying our atmosphere by the misuse of our technology. As an environmentalist, I also had the opportunity to speak at the United Nations recently before a special committee, as well as work as a consultant on the International 60 Minutes program regarding the world ozone dilemma, showing specifically through NASA's film footage, that is to say of aircraft over the South Pole, that there was a massive hole that was created by our chemical pollutants that was so large the whole continent of North America could fit through this hole. According to another colleague of mine, former Minister of Ecology for the country of Brazil, José Lutzenberger, within 20 years, if the Amazon is destroyed, the energies that attract the moisture over Central South America will no longer be in existence to provide, as it were, the tropical air conversion currents that support the rain and the moisture for the farms of South America and much of the third world. We will see massive destruction of millions of people.
If the threat of widespread destruction hangs over the human race, what salvation, if any, is it offered? One recurring theme in accounts of contacts is the intervention of extraterrestrial intelligence in the course of events. In his studies of ancient civilizations, Professor Hertak has found material which indicates that something comparable has happened earlier in the history of the world.
We believe that this planetary humanity is being prepared for a great exodus from this world to the higher dimensional worlds. And we will cross, as it were, the solar spectrum, which is the Red Sea, in terms of a different scientific understanding of the ancient symbolism. And we will go into other worlds, I believe, of advanced evolutionary cultures. That will be the vision of what John the Divine saw when he wrote of the heavenly Jerusalem.
Indeed, the 21st century cannot be a direct, linear continuation of the 20th century. There is a new science coming about, a new scientific understanding of man, of nature, and of our relationship with the universe. Does life exist in the universe, or are we alone? Life, it turns out, is not an accident. That life will emerge in precisely the same forms as ours, that's another matter. They could take different forms. That there will be human beings, that's still another matter. It may well be that our lack of communication is due to the fact that life that has evolved elsewhere in the universe operates on different wavelengths, on different frequencies, and that we must understand those frequencies. We must develop them ourselves. Perhaps beings that can actually travel in an interplanetary manner are much more evolved than we are. Perhaps their consciousness operates on a different level. And until we reach that level, we will not be able to communicate with them. We won't understand them, even though the signals may be here with us. And they may not be able to understand us. It is as though we were trying to communicate with much simpler forms of life, such as insects, for example. I think there's a good chance that as we move into the 21st century, sometime in the course of this century, we will indeed have evidence of conscious, intelligent life elsewhere.
And I think that the intent behind many of the ET agenda that we see is to help mankind to survive so that we can evolve. The future is very grim, as I've already stated, and I think we're going to be provided with some survival methods, but they won't be handed to us easily. We have to be able to work for them. We turn our attention away from their technology to their intent and their modus operandi. Again, that's a very complex issue that can't be covered in one moment of time. And I don't want to be taken out of context, so I don't want to get into too much detail about this. We will continue to help science and international governments and and leadership at international governments to understand what they're doing here so that people are not afraid of the phenomenon, because it is a very frightening thing if it's taken out of context. But now, after 13 years of studying the problem, after being in the desert with aliens, after seeing their operations and studying them, I now support them. I support their operations. It reminds me of a cosmic or a galactic Red Cross. It's something like that.
Major dames played a major role in developing the technique of remote viewing, a means of collecting data from distant sources through paranormal means. The extraterrestrials he has met are deeply concerned about the state of our natural environment and warn that if the deterioration of the seas continues, the result will be an irreparable disaster. However, extraterrestrial civilizations have the technology to prevent this from happening. Dames estimates that they are at least 100 million years ahead of us in evolution. But does our world have any future at all, now that modern industrialized society is losing all contact with nature and the forces that govern it?
Meiner Meinung nach steht diese Menschheit jetzt wirklich am endgültigen Wendepunkt. Es gibt wirklich nur noch zwei Fragen. Will die Menschheit überleben oder will die Menschheit sich selber umbringen? Denn 4,5 Milliarden Jahre hat diese Mutter Erde und ihre Natur, die sie hervorgebracht hat, gebraucht, um diesen wunderschönen Planeten so zu schaffen, wie er heute ist, mit all den wunderschönen Landschaften. Aber wir brauchen nur ungefähr 200 Jahre, um das alles wieder vollkommen zu ruinieren. Zurückzuführen an einen Punkt, wo die Erde vielleicht mal vor 2,5, 3,5 Milliarden Jahren angefangen hat in ihrer Entwicklung. Wir verbringen es fertig, pro Tag mehr Arten in der belebten Natur wieder auszurotten, als Hunderttausende und Millionen von Jahren gebraucht haben. Ich habe aber den Eindruck, dass 2000 Jahre vergangen sind und mit dem Namen dieses Jesus Christus so viel Unheil in die Welt gebracht worden ist. Und erst jetzt fangen die Menschen an, so langsam zu begreifen, was dieser Prophet eigentlich gelehrt hat und was er eigentlich gesagt hat. Und es sind sehr oft gerade Nichtchristen, die diese Liebe als ganz selbstverständlich praktizieren. Und Gott sei Dank fängt es auch unter den Christen an, dass sie endlich anfangen, die Lehre ihres Propheten etwas besser zu begreifen und auch etwas in das Leben umzusetzen.
The indigenous peoples of North and South America provide a good example of how self-evident love of all things created is to people who live on nature's terms. Even though a European conqueror destroyed by shameful means the cultures of the new continent, their spiritual heritage has survived to our days. How can this be explained? While technological modern man explains accounts of gods who've descended from heaven as mere folklore, the visits of extraterrestrials have been everyday reality to the American Indian for generations. Brothers from outer space have taught him to understand the oneness of creation and to live in harmony with it. Today, the Indians' age-old prophecies speak in the same ominous language as Nostradamus.
In our history of the Native Americans, there's many things that are now coming true of the prophecies of the Earth Mother, what is going to happen. First of all, Native Americans were visited by sky people. In Native American culture, they talk about the clamshell that came down out of the sky, and it opened up, and people came out and taught them Indianness. And there's many legends, many wisdom, many stories about the Native Americans who knew that there was going to be a flood long before there was a flood. When Mount St. Helens went off, you remember that, took 1 cubic mile of earth and threw it into the atmosphere, and it covered the whole world with ash. The Native Americans that lived at the base of that mountain, 3 months before there was any seismic activity, the chief said, we need to move because little sister is going to speak. And so the tribe got together, they had their arguments, and everyone left except for 6. And those 6 that would not listen are buried with 47 others at the base of that mountain today. These are not coincidences. This is going to happen. The Mother Earth is like a dog that is infested with fleas, and her back is torn open. She has huge festering sores. The Earth Mother has huge festering sores, and her hair is falling out like the trees we're losing right now on the planet, just like the hair on the dog. And if the dog doesn't cleanse itself of the fleas, the dog is going to die. Oh, matakiwasan.
We are entering a time where we're, as a solar system, about to go into what is known as the photon belt. And the photon belt are particles of light having no structure, no weight, only velocity and speed. Essentially, we'll be entering the white light. This is going to occur within the next 7 years. It's not uncommon for us in ceremony to speak with extraterrestrials or to have interaction with the great light ships that come. We've been doing it for 35,000 years. Many times the ships will appear, sometimes the beings themselves will appear to large groups of people. When they do this, they exchange information to us, information that has been kept in ancient prophecies, and a relationship that has continued since the dawn of what we call history. This time is here, it is now. We are already entered into the photon belt. The structures of the world are crumbling. The social structures, the religious structures, the archaic ways of thinking and the archaic consciousness which has existed on the earth plane for 10,500 years is about to come to a close. The destructuring can be frightening because many of the belief patterns that we have built our faith upon will change and alter.
Evolution theorists believe that nature's own processes safeguard its conservation. But what's going to happen if we allow, for example, the destruction of the food chain to continue? These horrifying pictures, which were extraordinarily difficult to obtain for this film, give us some indication. Abductions by UFOs have prompted the view that extraterrestrials are mere gene thieves. But a genuine concern for all living organisms on Earth may be the underlying reason for the abductions. For how long will the extraterrestrial intelligence be content to quietly observe the situation? Many observers believe that there is a secret international organization for the promotion of the aims of the Antichrist, which has spread its tentacles everywhere.
The Hopi people have a phrase called Kayanasquatsi. This word, Kayanasquatsi, means world out of balance. We have a world out of balance. We have governments that have dumped nuclear waste into the fjords that is leaching into the Atlantic Ocean even as we speak. We have the government of our country, America, which has dumped nuclear waste into the San Andreas Fault. These containers will begin to leach. We have a government of one world order that is attempting to take over all the people of this earth. We have continued this march in evolution toward the second coming of the Christ within because we've had freedom of movement. If the one world order succeeds and the one world government takes over, it would tell each of us where to go in the morning, who to pray to, who we would live with, who could go to school and who couldn't. And I am told when the end of time occurs, if this one world order happens, then that is when an armada will be seen in the heavens. When that armada appears in the heavens, a voice that is the voice of all of creation will be heard saying, "It is finished."
Believe me, there is life after this. The general order of things is not to destroy the human race, but put it straight. We humans have strayed from the general order, dictated to us by an ancient higher intelligence and existence. In fact, the oldest religion on earth, Astrogeology, or worship of the planets, has been with humanity for 13,000 years. It has dictated all our religious activity, the Old Testament, the New Testament, and all the other religions. And it will dictate the religion and moral of the new era as well.
Mysterious patterns appearing in fields have aroused great attention in recent years. A second strange phenomenon concerns the sun, whose odd behavior has been recorded even by scientists on video. It's also indicative that patterns similar to those on the fields have been discovered in the sacred places of indigenous peoples. Is there some connection between the two phenomena? The patterns in the fields have become more and more complex year by year, and observations of plasma balls and other strange luminous phenomena have been recorded close to them.
Presently, I'm investigating a phenomena which is called miracle of the sun. And this appears to be a gyration and a pulsation of the sun that can be witnessed visually by numbers of people. This pulsation I'm beginning to have it looked at scientifically. At this point, it appears to be scientifically inexplicable, and the frequency of the pulsation is about a 5.2, between 5.2 and 5.8 hertz, which is a specific frequency, and that seems to induce various different brain waves in individuals. So this tape I've also used in my experience in healing people. By having them look at this tape, it appears to have an effect on their bodies physically. Historically, what we are seeing this associated with, this phenomenon of the sun, appears to occur with the apparitions of Virgin Mary. When the Madonna appears in various places on the planet, the sun seems to pulsate. Many people can see it. This apparition of the Virgin Mary in Medjugorje Yugoslavia, previously Yugoslavia. She's appearing approximately at 6:40 daily, and she's been doing this for a number of years. And during that time, she communicates with the seers, the individuals, originally 4 children that were involved in this experience. These are still going on at this point. Quite often, this blinking sun is associated with changes in people's consciousness. This appears to be, in my opinion, my research, a wake-up call, similar to crop circles. If you look at the crop circles, what we see scientifically, very difficult to explain, and yet the evidence is there that these are spontaneously occurring designs within various types of crops, and they seem to be intelligently designed. That's the same with the flashing sun. It seems to be an intelligent manipulation of the image of the sun for particular purposes of evolving the consciousness of individuals. Classically, this sun associated with the Marian apparitions has to do with warnings, various possible prophecies on planet Earth.
If development occurs in the consciousness of individuals, it will manifest itself somehow in group behavior. Evidence gathered from group psychology studies is seen as an indication that the movement of planets may even regulate the course of history, and that influential artists, scientists, actors, entertainers, and journalists are born according to a certain mathematical model. Scientists generally avoid dealing with connections of this type.
Aber ich bin schon 1976 durch einen Zufall auf die Thematik gekommen, die mich hierher gebracht hat. Und zwar handelt es sich um einen Befund eines russischen Forschers, der schon zu Beginn unseres Jahrhunderts aufgetreten ist mit der Behauptung, dass menschliches Massenverhalten, Bürgerunruhen, Revolutionen abhängen sollen von den magnetischen Veränderungen unseres Sonnensystems. Der Befund ist hart, einer der härtesten Befunde, die überhaupt in den Sozialwissenschaften berichtet worden sind. Und das Merkwürdige oder das Aufregende eigentlich auch an dieser Forschung ist, dass wir für diesen Zusammenhang keinerlei Erklärung haben. Seit 20 Jahren verfolge ich diese heiße Spur, die sehr interessante zusätzliche Ergebnisse erbracht hat. Zum Beispiel ist um die Jahrtausendwende, um Jahre 2000 oder 2001, das nächste Maximum der Sonnentätigkeit zu erwarten. Und nach meinen Befunden ist in Zeiten der maximalen Sonnentätigkeit die Wahrscheinlichkeit des Auftretens von Revolutionen, Bürgerkriegen, Umstürzen und so weiter.
I think the UFO, the crop circles, the appearances of the beautiful lady all over the planet, I believe all of this is a part of a vast, incredible, complicated process that is coming to a close. We cannot go into the 21st century. We cannot go out into the universe with all of our savagery, with all of our fear, of all of our primitive bloodlust, our religious differences, our political differences. All of this must be left behind. I think the realization that we're not alone, we've never been alone, will bring about, in my opinion, an expansion of consciousness among the human species, among the human race.
The Fatima miracle. 3 Catholic youngsters, a boy and 2 girls, saw a vision in May 1917 while attending sheep in a remote village in Portugal. The word spread, and by the 13th of October, 70,000 people had gathered to see this miracle. There were skeptics and unbelievers, but all agreed that they saw something that looked like a disk of the sun descending, sending multicolored lights in all directions.
A group of children saw several apparitions of a beautiful young woman who's generally thought to have been the Virgin Mary. An Italian called Giorgio Bongiovanni says he's the reincarnation of Francesco, one of the children who witnessed the miracle of Fatima. Inspired by his visions, he visited Fatima in 1989 and has carried ever since the stigmata as a sign of the mission he received. Unlike other stigmatics, Bongiovanni talks about the cosmic dimensions of humanity and believes that extraterrestrials are servants of Christ.
Che tipo di contatto e connessione esiste tra Gesù Cristo, gli esseri extraterrestri e gli esseri di luce?
Gesù non è Cristo, Gesù è lo strumento di Cristo, è l'essere spirituale di luce che è stato strumento, e lo è ancora, dell'intelligenza divina che gli uomini definiscono Cristo. Il corpo di Gesù è stato lo strumento di Cristo. Gli extraterrestri sono esseri che vivono in milioni di miliardi di milioni di miliardi di pianeti sparsi nell'universo. Questo non ci deve meravigliare, è la rivelazione di questo tempo. L'uomo si deve abituare che non siamo soli nell'universo e che l'intelligenza divina non ha visitato solo questo pianeta, ma prima che nascesse questo pianeta ha visitato centinaia di milioni di miliardi di altri pianeti. Ricordatevi che è stato detto e scritto nel Vangelo da Cristo: la casa del Padre mio è fatta di molte stanze, e le stanze sono i pianeti e l'universo.
Perché devi soffrire la stigmatizzazione, così simile alla passione di Gesù Cristo?
Io sono uno stigmatizzato, quindi la mia esperienza prevalentemente è ripetere e ricordare agli uomini la crocifissione e il significato della crocifissione di Gesù Cristo. In questo tempo la sofferenza che porto vuole significare e ricordare che Gesù sta per ritornare in mezzo agli uomini. Io sono stigmatizzato per questo motivo, devo annunciare il ritorno di Gesù sulla terra, e non sono io solo, perché ce ne sono altri stigmatizzati e non, e devo unire, relegare la verità del Vangelo con questa manifestazione extraterrestre.
Perché hanno scelto te come oggetto della stigmatizzazione?
Beh, questa risposta dovrei rispondere e sprecare molto tempo. Sinteticamente posso dire che fa parte delle mie vite precedenti. Io credo nella reincarnazione, è una legge di vita, è una legge di vita universale. So che la Chiesa Cattolica non l'accetta, è uno dei motivi perché è in contrasto con il mio messaggio, ma la scelta è caduta perché porto dietro le mie vite precedenti, c'è un motivo, e questo è iniziato migliaia di anni fa. Per questo è caduta la scelta.
Das Phänomen der Stigmatisation kann also als ein Phänomen der religiösen Ekstase auftreten, wobei es eben im Grenzbereich Parapsychologie, Theologie und Medizin angesiedelt ist. Ein berühmter Fall betraf den italienischen Blumenhändler Antonio Ruffini, der über 50 Jahre lang die Wundmale Christi trug, an Händen, Füßen und auch die Seitenwunde. Man kann diese, unter Anführungszeichen, echten Fälle daran erkennen, dass der Mensch, der diese Wundmale trägt, tatsächlich von seinem Glauben durchdrungen ist und überhaupt nicht das Gefühl hat, dass er jetzt mit seinen Stigmen etwas darstellen muss oder dass er sich unbedingt produzieren muss damit.
Come fai a sapere di essere la reincarnazione di Francesco?
Sono la reincarnazione del bambino Francesco di Fatima. Non ho nessuna prova fisica. L'unica cosa che ho e che credo è che perché la Madonna in uno dei messaggi che ho ricevuto me l'ha detto, e poi prima che me lo dicesse io a Fatima avevo avuto un'esperienza la prima volta quando sono andato a casa di Francesco, del pastorello, senza che sapessi dove si trovava, perché io mai ero andato, quindi istintivamente sono andato in un posto che non conoscevo, quindi in una vita passata c'ero stato. Ma non è stata questa la prova è stato il messaggio che ho ricevuto. Per me è una prova, so che per voi magari non lo è, ma per me lo è.
Zur Jahrtausendwende jetzt wird immer wieder die Frage nach dem dritten Geheimnis von Fatima gestellt. Ein großes Schweigen herrscht über diesem Geheimnis. Selbst im Vatikan weiß niemand davon, außer Papst und Kardinal Ratzinger hat das Geheimnis gelesen. Dabei wurde gesagt, und dies auch veröffentlicht, dass man das Geheimnis nicht kundtun will, weil dies eine Form der Angst und Unsicherheit auslösen könnte. Es stellt sich daher die Frage, und das wird immer wieder gestellt, warum tut man nicht alles kund, wenn es schon ein so großes Geheimnis ist? Oder ist es vielleicht kein Geheimnis?
Das dritte Geheimnis von Fatima wurde vor ungefähr 30 Jahren entlüftet. Es war ein Würdenträger, der einige Worte darüber an die Öffentlichkeit brachte, aber er sagte unter anderem, das Geheimnis besteht nicht darin, dass darin Mitteilungen über ein nahes Weltende oder einen Krieg, über Atombomben und so weiter veröffentlicht sind, sondern es geht um den katholischen Glauben. Dass wahrscheinlich die Kinder 1917 etwas anderes gesehen haben als die Mutter Maria, die dann natürlich von der katholischen Kirche als Mutter Maria entschlüsselt oder identifiziert wurde und als Gestalt, als Förderung für ihren eigenen Glauben benutzt wurde. Es geht möglicherweise darum, dass die Kinder etwas ganz anderes gesehen haben. Johannes Viehbach schreibt darüber, dass es möglicherweise UFOs oder irgendwelche Phänomene gewesen sein können, die das sämtliche katholische Gefüge des Glaubens, wo heute noch Millionen daran gekettet bleiben, mit ihrem Obersten, dem Papst, der eigentlich auch nur eine Marionettenfigur in einem großen Spiel darstellt, dass das Ganze eigentlich aufgrund dieses Geheimnisses, würde es entschlüsselt und veröffentlicht, zusammenbrechen würde. Und deshalb versteht man natürlich, dass dieses dritte Geheimnis von der katholischen Kirche bzw. vom Vatikan nicht veröffentlicht wird, denn die Leute dort können sich nicht ihr eigenes Grab schaufeln, indem sie dieses Geheimnis preisgeben.
La distruzione della Chiesa Romana Cattolica, perché?
La distruzione della Chiesa non è a livello spirituale. Io credo che Cristo ha fondato la Chiesa quando disse Pietro su questa pietra fondo la mia Chiesa, eccetera, eccetera. Credo che l'istituzione della Chiesa temporale ha raggiunto un tale potere temporale, materiale, da sopraffare quello spirituale. Quindi la Chiesa di Cristo è offuscata dal potere della stessa Chiesa di Cristo che si è rivestito di potere materiale. La colpa non è di Gesù naturalmente, né dei suoi apostoli, in questo senso di istruzione. Cadrà questo muro di dogmatismo, di dittatura, di imperialismo, di sottomissione delle anime, perché la gente ha usato il nome di Cristo per sottomettere le anime, la Chiesa. Sì.
Che tipo di connessione hanno i cerchi nel grano e le figure apparse sulle tue stimate?
Da sempre hanno parlato all'umanità con un linguaggio figurato, con un linguaggio simbolico, per far meditare la gente, per farla risvegliare col cuore, non razionalmente. Quindi i segni delle stimme, i cerchi nel grano e tante altre manifestazioni simboliche vogliono farci capire e vogliono soprattutto far meditare seriamente l'umanità a un risveglio di coscienza, non di mente, di coscienza. Ecco perché avvengono segni simbolici.
Chi ti ha dato i messaggi sulla fine del mondo?
Nessuno mi ha mandato messaggi sulla fine del mondo. I messaggi sono sulla fine di questa generazione, mai sono stati sulla fine del mondo. Non esiste la fine del mondo, esiste il cambio di questa generazione che passerà a una generazione futura, migliore e sicuramente dove Gesù Cristo regnerà con gli uomini, non solo, ma l'uomo prenderà contatto con l'intelligenza dell'universo. Ma la fine del mondo non esiste. Può distruggersi il pianeta, io mi auguro di no, spero di no e sono convinto che no, perché la mia fede e la promessa di Cristo ha detto che su questo pianeta ci sarà il nuovo regno.
Il tuo concetto di Dio?
Dio è l'intelligenza di tutto l'universo e questo è il grande insegnamento che ci ha dato Cristo prima di tutti, poi tanti altri come il famoso filosofo Giordano Bruno, che fu bruciato dalla Chiesa Cattolica per aver detto queste parole che oggi sto dicendo io.
I tuoi ultimi messaggi?
L'ultimo che ho ricevuto è stato il 2 di settembre 1996 e come potete notare da queste fotografie e da questo filmato che vedrete, Si tratta di una lacrimazione di sangue dagli occhi ed è stato l'ultimo segno della corona di spine che ho ricevuto, che vuole simboleggiare la completa personificazione di Gesù in questo strumento. Significa che io adesso sono completamente nelle sue mani e strumento suo per fare quello che lui vuole fare. La catastrofe più grave che avverrà sarà lo spostamento dell'asse magnetico. Questo provocherà la glaciazione dei poli e cambierà completamente la geografia attuale del geoide del pianeta. Altre catastrofi ci saranno. Spero che non ci sarà una guerra nucleare, perché sarebbe veramente la morte di tutta l'umanità.
Campi su pobre negro caro mantiña ya baile su
Dr. Elmar Gruber has aroused widespread attention with his studies of Jesus. Since the scrolls discovered in Qumran and Nag Hammadi have been studied by scientists, the origins of Christianity have had to be reassessed. The most startling of Gruber's observations is that early Christianity was strongly influenced by Buddhism. As an interpreter of destruction prophecies, Gruber perceives a change in man's consciousness, which took place about 2,000 years earlier, when he became liberated from the confines imposed on his life by nature.
Wir haben einen Endpunkt erreicht, in dem sich dieses Ich-Bewusstsein noch mehr vom Naturablauf separiert hat und differenziert hat. Und die Ängste über das Ende der Welt, die ja eigentlich zunächst einmal nur Ängste waren über das Ende des eigenen Ichs, die Sterblichkeit des Menschen ist so stark in den Vordergrund getreten, nachdem der Mensch aus dem normalen Naturzusammenhang herausgenommen worden ist, die wurden ins Unermessliche projiziert. Und in dieser Spanne stehen die Prophezeiungen, und in dieser Spanne müssen wir auch die Prophezeiungen betrachten, sowohl die alten biblischen wie auch jene eines Nostradamus oder moderner Propheten. Sie haben das vorweggenommen, was am Ende des modernen Bewusstseins uns blüht, nämlich die selbstgemachte Katastrophe. Nicht etwa ein Strafgericht Gottes, das auf uns hereinströmt und dem wir ausgeliefert sind, sondern eine Katastrophe, die das Resultat dieses mörderischen modernen Bewusstseins ist, das sich ja vollkommen gegen die Natur gestellt hat. Und genau dahin streben wir. Und so müssen wir die Prophezeiungen, wenn wir sie richtig interpretieren wollen, nicht unbedingt als das nehmen, was sie uns sagen, nämlich, dass die Welt zum Beispiel zu irgendeinem bestimmten Zeitpunkt zu Ende geht, sondern als Spiegelbilder und als Warninstrumente, dass wir selber diese Katastrophe hervorrufen, wenn wir nicht unser Bewusstsein ändern. So müssen wir das interpretieren und nicht unbedingt als ein feststehendes Ereignis.
According to prophecies based on the Bible, our generation will witness the final battle between the Antichrist and the Prince of Light for the hearts of mankind. But in Jerusalem, in the center of the oldest monotheistic religion, expectations are different.
In regards to the generation and the era, the time that we live in today, we no doubt that in accordance with the Jewish belief, we are very, very close to the ultimate revelation of the Messiah, of the Mashiach. The coming of a Messiah, the coming of Mashiach, is a very, very strong principle within Jewish belief.
In November 1995, Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin died, the victim of a heartless assassin. Was there a conspiracy behind the killing which transcended the borders of Israel, as many investigators believe? Is there really a secret world government behind the scenes directing world events? Conspiracies are also alleged to exist behind the Christian message. According to Dr. Gruber, the New Testament contains only 5% of authentic Jesus, and that the carbon dating of the Turin Shroud was a conscious fraud. And how does one explain the fact that the Qumran scrolls were released for examination by researchers independent of the Church only a few years ago and after a hard struggle? According to a doctoral thesis, the scrolls of Nag Hammadi state that Mary Magdalene was Jesus' most beloved disciple, and that Jesus kissed her publicly. Were Jesus and Mary a married couple, as the most daring researchers claim?
Jesus said, through catastrophe, the righteous will rise from the ashes of evil. The Old Testament refers to God as having descended upon us hundreds and thousands of years ago, and to us humans as having been created in the image of that God, or gods. Elohim, the Hebrew word for God, is really a plural form. Next time we will show how our priests, generals, and presidents are trying to prevent us from seeing this galactic connection. On behalf of Mr. Johan Afgran and the entire production staff, this is Dave Liebkin saying good night. See you soon.